The ground shook under Li Jiwan's feet as another plasma blast hit the factory complex. Smoke filled the air, making it hard to breathe. Around him, human soldiers ran toward the evacuation ships in the distance. Their boots splashed through puddles of rain mixed with blood. Jiwan carried his medical bag and looked for any wounded soldiers who needed help. He was a combat medic with the 47th Terran Marine Division. For 3 years, he had been fixing broken bodies on battlefields across the galaxy. Today felt different, though. Today felt like the end. Medic, over here. Someone shouted. Jiwan ran toward the voice. A young Marine sat against a broken wall, holding his bleeding arm. Jiwan quickly cleaned the wound and wrapped it with bandages. "Can you walk?" Jiwan asked. "Yeah, I think so," the Marine said. "Good. Get to the ships. Don't stop for anything." The Marine nodded and stumbled away toward the evacuation zone. Jiwan watched him go, then turned back to search for more wounded. The factory complex was huge, with many buildings and hiding spots. There might be more soldiers who needed help. Sergeant Park Hyun appeared beside him. "Jiwan, we need to move now. The ships are leaving in 10 minutes. "Just a few more minutes," Jiwan said. "There might be others. The others are dead or already gone." "Come on!" But Jiwan kept moving through the ruins. Something told him to keep looking. Maybe it was his training, or maybe it was just who he was. He had never left anyone behind before, and he would not start now. He climbed over a pile of twisted metal and jumped down into a large crater. The explosion that made this hole must have been massive. Pieces of machinery lay everywhere, and among the metal and debris he saw bodies. Most were human soldiers already cold, but some were different. These had blue skin that seemed to glow a little, even in death. They were void-born warriors, the enemy they had been fighting for so long. Jiwan had seen many dead void-born before. They were the ones who had started this war. They had attacked human colonies and killed innocent people. Everyone said they were monsters who felt no mercy. But as Jiwan looked at their faces, they just looked tired. Young. Some seemed barely old enough to hold weapons. He was about to leave when he heard a soft sound, like someone trying to breathe but failing. Jiwan stopped and listened carefully. There it was again. Following the sound, he moved deeper into the crater. Behind a large piece of broken machinery, he found her. She was small, much smaller than the other voidborn he had seen. Her blue skin was cracked in many places, and bright liquid leaked from the wounds. It looked like blood, but it glowed with a strange light. Her breathing was very slow and weak. She was definitely voidborn, but she looked so young. Her eyes were closed, but her chest still moved up and down. She was alive, but barely. Jiwan looked around. No one could see him here. According to military rules, he should leave enemy wounded behind. The voidborn never helped human prisoners. Why should he help one of them? But as he watched her struggle to breathe, something inside him refused to walk away. She was just a kid, maybe even younger than his little sister back on Earth. He knelt down beside her and opened his medical bag. Her injuries were bad. The glowing blood was leaking from several deep cuts. Her left arm looked broken. But the worst part was her breathing. Something was wrong with her lungs. "Li Jiwan." Sergeant Park's voice echoed across the crater. "Where are you?" "The ships are leaving." Jiwan looked at the dying alien girl, then toward the sound of his sergeant's voice. He had to choose. Follow orders and save himself, or stay and try to save someone who was supposed to be his enemy. The girl's eyes opened slightly. They were a bright purple color, unlike anything he had ever seen. For just a moment, they focused on his face. He saw fear there, but also something else. Hope. That decided it. Jiwan pulled out his medical scanner and ran it over her body. The device was designed for human biology, but it could still detect basic life signs. Her heart was beating too fast. Her blood pressure was dropping. Without help, she would die in minutes. "Sorry, Park," Jiwan whispered to himself. "I can't leave her." He started working quickly. First, he had to stop the bleeding. But her blood was different from human blood. It seemed to turn solid when it touched air. His normal bandages would not work. Jiwan looked around the crater and found pieces of clear plastic from broken equipment. He used these to cover her wounds, creating an airtight seal. The glowing blood stopped leaking out. Next, he checked her breathing. Her airway was clear, but something was wrong with how her lungs worked. He remembered reading that some alien species needed different gas mixtures to breathe. Maybe the human atmosphere was poisoning her. The sound of ship engines grew louder overhead. The evacuation was starting. Soon, all the human forces would be gone and void-born reinforcements would arrive. Jiwan made his choice. He carefully lifted the alien girl in his arms. She was lighter than he expected, but her body felt strange. Her skin was warm, but it also seemed to vibrate slightly, like energy was flowing through it. He climbed out of the crater and looked toward the evacuation ships. They were too far away now. Even if he ran, he would never make it in time while carrying her. But he remembered something from the mission briefing. There was an old mining station about 2 kilometers east. It had been abandoned for years, but it might have medical equipment he could use. The girl made a soft sound like she was trying to speak. Her purple eyes opened again and looked at him. She seemed confused but not afraid. "Don't worry," Jiwan said, even though she probably could not understand him. "I'm going to help you." He started walking toward the mining station as the last evacuation ship disappeared into the cloudy sky. Behind him, the factory complex burned. Ahead was nothing but uncertainty, but Li Jiwan had made his choice. He would not let her die. Not today. As he walked through the ruins carrying his enemy, he wondered if he was being stupid or brave. Maybe both, but it felt like the right thing to do. The war could wait. Right now, there was only a wounded girl who needed help, and a human who refused to give up on her. The mining station looked dead from the outside. Jiwan kicked open the rusted door and carried the alien girl inside. The place smelled like old metal and dust. Emergency lights flickered on automatically when they entered. Jiwan laid the girl on a metal table in what used to be the medical bay. The mining station was small, meant for maybe 20 workers, but it had basic medical equipment that might still work. The girl's breathing had gotten worse during the walk. Her purple eyes kept closing and opening like she was fighting to stay awake. The makeshift bandages he had put on her wounds were holding, but just barely. Jiwan found an old medical scanner and tried to turn it on. After a few seconds, it buzzed to life. He ran it over the girl's body again. The readings were all wrong for human biology, but he could see that her condition was getting worse. His radio crackled to life. Private Li Jiwan responded immediately. It was Captain Yoon Mina, his commanding officer. Her voice was angry. Jiwan hesitated, then picked up the radio. "This is Jiwan. What is your location? You missed the evacuation." "I'm at Mining Station 7. I have a wounded soldier who needed immediate medical attention." There was silence for a moment. Then Captain Yoon's voice came back, colder than before. "What is the soldier's name and unit?" Jiwan looked at the alien girl. He could not tell his captain the truth. "The soldier is unconscious. I can't identify them right now. Listen carefully, Private. Void-born reinforcements are heading to that sector. You have 30 minutes to reach the secondary extraction point at grid reference 47. Leave the wounded soldier and move now. That's an order." "Captain, I can't abandon. That was not a request, Private. Move now or you'll be left behind permanently." Jiwan stared at the radio in his hand. Then he turned it off and smashed it against the wall. The plastic pieces scattered across the floor. The alien girl made a soft sound. Her eyes were open, looking at him. She said something in her own language. It sounded like a question. "I don't understand," Jiwan said. "But don't worry. I'm not leaving." He turned back to the medical equipment. There was an old atmospheric processor that might still work. If he could create the right air mixture for her species, it might help her breathe better. But first he had to figure out what kind of atmosphere she needed. Jiwan remembered reading reports about captured void-born technology. Their ships had different air than human ships. Less oxygen, more of something else. He found the girl's equipment scattered around the crater where he had found her. Most of it was broken, but one small device was still working. It looked like a translator. The screen showed symbols he could not read, but it was definitely still functioning. Jiwan brought the device back to the mining station. When he held it near the girl, it made beeping sounds. She seemed to recognize it and tried to reach for it with her good arm. He placed the translator on her chest. She touched it with weak fingers, and suddenly it spoke in broken English. "Where am I?" the device said in a strange electronic voice. Jiwan was so surprised he almost dropped his medical scanner. "You can understand me?" The girl nodded weakly. She touched the translator again. "Human, why, help me." "Because you're hurt," Jiwan said simply. "What's your name?" "Kaya," the translator said after she spoke. "I am Kaya. I'm Jiwan. How old are you, Kaya?" She said something longer this time. The translator was quiet for a moment, then said, 16 rotations is very young for my people. 16 years old. Ji-won felt sick. She was just a kid, barely older than some of the new recruits he had seen. What was she doing on a battlefield? Kaya, I need to know what kind of air you breathe. The atmosphere here is making you sicker. She spoke again, pointing to the atmospheric processor. The translator said, need more carbon gas, less oxygen. My blood turns hard in wrong air. That explained why her blood crystallized when it touched the normal atmosphere. Ji-won worked quickly to reprogram the atmospheric processor. It took him 20 minutes to create an enclosed space with the right gas mixture. While the machine worked, he asked Kaya more questions. Through the translator, he learned that she was not a soldier by choice. The Void-born military had taken her from her family's farm just 4 months ago. She had been trained for only a few weeks before being sent to fight. My family thinks I am dead, she said through the device. I was supposed to be safe. Supposed to tend the light plants, not fight in war. Ji-won felt anger growing in his chest, but not at Kaya. At the people who had sent a 16-year-old farm girl to die in battle. It reminded him too much of some of the young human soldiers he had treated. Kids who should have been in school, not getting shot at by strangers. The atmospheric processor finished its work. Ji-won moved Kaya into the sealed chamber and watched as her breathing immediately improved. The purple color returned to her skin and her eyes became more alert. Better? He asked. Yes, much better. Thank you. Her voice through the translator was stronger now. But why? Your people and my people are enemies. Ji-won sat down next to the chamber. I don't know. You needed help and I could give it. That seemed more important than who you're supposed to be. You will get in trouble. Your leaders will be angry. Probably, Ji-won admitted. But I can live with that. I couldn't live with leaving you to die. Kaya was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, on my world we have a saying. The light plants grow toward any sun, not just their own. I think you are like the light plants, Ji-won smiled at that. That's a nice saying. Over the next few hours, he worked to stabilize her other injuries. The broken arm was easy to set and splint. The cuts were healing faster now that she could breathe properly. But she was still very weak. As night fell, Ji-won heard the distant sound of engines. Void-born ships were searching the area. He turned off all the lights and waited in the dark with Kaya. Are you afraid? She asked quietly. A little, he admitted. Are you? Yes, but less afraid than before. Thank you for not letting me die alone. You're not going to die at all if I can help it. You are very stubborn, Ji-won. Yeah, he said. I've been told that before. Outside, the engine sounds grew closer. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, in the darkness of an abandoned mining station, a human and an alien sat together, no longer enemies. Just two young people who had found something more important than war. Ji-won woke up to the sound of footsteps outside the mining station. Heavy, careful steps that tried to be quiet but failed. He had been sleeping in a chair next to Kaya's atmospheric chamber. She was awake too, her purple eyes wide with fear. Voidborn, she whispered through her translator. Hunter-killer class. Very dangerous. Ji-won grabbed his pistol and moved to the window. Through the dirty glass, he could see a tall figure in dark armor moving around the building. The armor was different from what the regular Void-born soldiers wore. It looked more advanced, more deadly. Can you move? Ji-won asked Kaya quietly. A little. But not fast. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. Ji-won aimed his pistol at the entrance and waited. His heart was beating so fast he could hear it in his ears. The door exploded inward. The hunter-killer stepped through the smoke, carrying a weapon that hummed with energy. The figure was tall and moved like a predator. Through the helmet's visor, Ji-won could see glowing red eyes. The hunter-killer stopped when it saw the scene inside the medical bay. Ji-won standing with his pistol drawn. Kaya in the atmospheric chamber, clearly alive and being cared for. The broken radio on the floor. Medical supplies scattered around. Impossible, the hunter-killer said in perfect English. The voice was female, cold and precise. You are healing one of us. Stay back, Ji-won said, keeping his gun pointed at the armored figure. I don't want to fight you. The hunter-killer tilted her head like she was studying something she could not understand. You are human. She is Voidborn. You should have killed her or left her to die. Why do you heal your enemy? Because she's hurt and she's just a kid. She is a soldier of the hegemony. You are a soldier of Terra. This makes no sense. Kaya spoke up from inside the chamber using her own language. Her voice was weak but urgent. The hunter-killer's red eyes turned toward her, and for a moment the weapon lowered slightly. You told her I was coming, the hunter-killer said to Kaya in English. She warned me not to harm you. Her name is Kaya, Jiwan said. She's 16 years old. She was drafted from a farm. She doesn't want to fight this war any more than I do. The hunter-killer was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Still cold, but with something else underneath. Confusion, maybe. I am Nixara. I have killed 137 humans in this war. I came here to kill you too. She paused. But I have never seen a human heal one of us before. Maybe that's the problem, Jiwan said. Maybe we spend so much time killing each other that we forget we're all just people trying to survive. Nixara laughed, but it was not a happy sound. People? Humans destroyed my homeworld, killed my family. You expect me to believe you are just people? Humans destroyed your world? Jiwan was shocked. That's not what we were told. We were told you attacked our colonies first. Lies. Your fleet bombarded Veltar 3 years ago. Millions died, including my daughter. Jiwan lowered his pistol slightly. I'm sorry. I didn't know, but I never bombed your world, and Kaya never attacked our colonies. We're just soldiers following orders. Maybe the real enemies are the ones giving the orders. Kaya spoke again, longer this time. The translator worked to convert her words. She says her family was told humans were monsters who ate children, but you saved her life instead of taking it. She says, maybe we have all been lied to. Nexara removed her helmet, revealing a face similar to Kaya's but older and marked with scars. Her skin was darker blue and her eyes were cold silver instead of purple. You could have used her as a hostage, Nexara said. You could have threatened to kill her unless I left. That is what a monster would do. I won't use a wounded girl as a shield, Jiwan said. That's not who I am. Then who are you? A medic. Someone who fixes people instead of breaking them. Suddenly, warning lights began flashing inside Kaya's chamber. Her breathing had become rapid and shallow again. The atmospheric processor was making strange noises. Something's wrong, Jiwan said, rushing to the controls. The system is failing. Without thinking, he opened the chamber to check on Kaya. Immediately, her breathing got worse as the normal atmosphere hit her lungs. Her skin started to turn gray. Close it, Nexara commanded, moving forward. She cannot breathe your air for long. I know, but I need to fix the processor. The gas mixture is wrong. Nexara looked at the machine, then at Jiwan. Move aside. I know this equipment, Jiwan hesitated. Working together with an enemy hunter-killer seemed insane. But Kaya was dying, and he was out of options. Please, he said. Help me save her. Nexara's hands moved quickly over the controls. Your machine is designed for human metabolism. It cannot properly process the right mixture for our species. But if we combine your knowledge of healing with my knowledge of our biology... For the next hour, they worked together. Nexara taught Jiwan about void-born physiology, while he shared human medical techniques. It was strange learning from someone who had been trying to kill him just minutes before. Your blood carries energy, not just oxygen, Jiwan said as he worked. That's why it glows. Yes, and why it crystallizes in your atmosphere. The energy cannot flow properly. Nexara adjusted the processor settings. Your healing techniques are crude but effective. You think only of immediate survival. What do you mean? Void-born medicine focuses on long-term harmony. Human medicine focuses on immediate crisis. Combined, they could be very powerful. Together, they managed to stabilize Kaya's condition. The girl's breathing returned to normal, and her skin regained its healthy blue color. She looked at both of them with tired but grateful eyes. Thank you, she said through the translator. Both of you. Nexara sat down heavily like the effort had exhausted her. I came here to complete a mission, to kill any remaining humans in this sector. But now, she looked at Jiwan. Now I do not know what my mission should be. Maybe your mission should be getting Kaya home safely, Jiwan said. And what about you? Your people will consider you a traitor. My people will consider me a failure. Then maybe we need to find new people. Nexara was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, You are either very wise or very foolish. Human, probably both. Outside, the sun was setting on Nexus Prime. Inside the mining station, 3 former enemies sat together, wondering if they had just changed everything or doomed themselves. But Kaya was alive. And sometimes that was enough to start a revolution. Lieutenant Kim Sura crouched behind a pile of rubble, watching the mining station through her scope. She had been tracking Jiwon's heat signature for 2 days. What she saw inside made no sense. Through the broken window, she could see her former squadmate working alongside a void-born warrior. They were both tending to someone in what looked like a medical chamber. It had to be some kind of trap. "Command, this is Rescue Team Alpha," she whispered into her radio. "I have visual on Private Lee, but there's a problem." "What kind of problem?" came the reply from Captain Yoon Mina. Sura hesitated. How could she explain what she was seeing? He appears to be collaborating with enemy forces. Impossible. Lee is a medic, not a traitor. Move in and extract him immediately. "Ma'am, I think you should see this for yourself." "Negative. You have your orders, Lieutenant. Bring him back." Sura clicked off the radio and signaled to her team. Private Song Minho and Corporal Park Junho moved into position around the building. They had trained together for months. She trusted them with her life. But as she watched Jiwon carefully adjusting some kind of atmospheric device while the void-born warrior handed him tools, she realized she might be seeing something that could change everything. "Team, hold position," she ordered. "I'm going in to assess the situation." Sura approached the mining station slowly, her rifle ready but not aimed directly at the door. She could hear voices inside, speaking in both human and alien languages. She kicked open the door and stepped inside, weapon raised. "Don't move! Human forces!" Jiwon spun around, his hands up. The void-born warrior reached for her weapon but stopped when Jiwon said something urgent in broken alien words. "Sura?" Jiwon said, recognizing her. "What are you doing here?" "I came to rescue you, you idiot. But it looks like you've been having too much fun with your new friends." "It's not what you think." "Really? Because what I think is that you've been fraternizing with the enemy. Do you know what the penalty for that is?" The void-born warrior stood slowly, keeping her hands visible. "I am Nexara. I am not his friend. I am his colleague. You speak English. Many of us do. It is useful for interrogating prisoners." Sura kept her weapon trained on Nexara but looked around the room. The medical equipment, the atmospheric chamber, the careful setup. "What's really going on here, Jiwon?" "She's just a kid, Sura, 16 years old. She was dying when I found her. She's void-born. She's a child soldier who got conscripted from a farm." Sura moved closer to the atmospheric chamber and saw Kaya inside. The alien girl looked so young, so fragile. Nothing like the monsters they had been told about in training. "This could be a trap," Sura said, but her voice was less certain now. "For 2 days?" Jiwon asked. "I've been here for 2 days keeping her alive. If this was a trap, don't you think it would have been sprung by now?" Kaya spoke softly, and her translator converted the words. "Please do not hurt the healer. He saved my life when he could have left me to die." Sura stared at the girl. "The healer?" "That's what she calls me," Jiwon said. "Nexara was sent to kill me. But when she saw what I was doing..." He gestured to the alien warrior. "Tell her, Nexara." "I have been a soldier for 20 years, Nexara said. I have killed many humans, but I have never seen one show mercy to our wounded. It made me question things. Question what things? Whether we are fighting the right war? Whether you are truly the monsters we were told you are." Sura's radio crackled. "Lieutenant Kim, report your status." She looked at Jiwon, then at Nexara, then at the young alien girl who was watching them all with frightened purple eyes. "This is Kim. The situation is complicated. Explain. I need you to come here and see this yourself, Captain. Bring Admiral Cho if you can reach him." "Lieutenant, that's not how this works. Extract Private Lee and return to base." "Ma'am, with respect, this is bigger than one missing soldier. This could change how we think about this entire war." There was a long pause. "Stand by." While they waited, Sura learned more about what had happened. Jiwon told her about finding Kaya, about choosing to save her despite orders. Nexara described how she had been forced to reevaluate everything she believed about humans. "You know what's going to happen when I report this," Sura said. "They'll court-martial you for treason." "I know, and probably execute these two as enemy combatants." "I know that too. So what's your plan?" Jiwon was quiet for a moment. "I don't have one. I just knew I couldn't let her die." "You're an idiot." "Yeah, probably," Kaya spoke up again. "In my language, we have a word. Velthara. It means someone who chooses kindness even when it brings danger. I think humans have Velthara too." "Great," Sura said. Now the alien is making me feel guilty. Her radio buzzed again. Lieutenant Kim, this is Fleet Admiral Cho Dong-min. I understand you have an unusual situation. Sura almost dropped her radio. The Fleet Admiral himself was responding. Yes, sir. Very unusual. I'm sending a diplomatic team to your location. Do not engage the aliens unless they threaten you. Do not harm Private Lee unless he attempts to escape. We need to understand what's happening there. Sir, the aliens don't seem hostile. One of them actually helped treat the wounded one. Noted. Maintain your position and wait for the diplomatic team. After Sura signed off, Nexara said, My people will also want to know what happened here. Word has already begun to spread through our fleet networks. What kind of word? Jiwan asked. Stories of a human who healed instead of killed. It is causing discussion among our warriors. Good discussion or bad discussion? Both. Some say it proves humans can show mercy. Others say it proves you are weak and should be destroyed quickly. And what do you say? Nexara looked at Kaya, then at Jiwan. I say that any species capable of such mercy deserves a chance to prove they want peace instead of war. Sura sat down on a crate, her rifle across her knees. You know what's crazy? 3 days ago, if someone had told me I'd be having a conversation with Voidborn warriors about peace, I'd have recommended them for psychiatric evaluation. And now? Jiwan asked. She looked at Kaya, who was smiling weakly at all of them despite being hurt and far from home. Now I'm wondering why we're fighting at all. Outside, the sound of approaching ships grew louder. Soon, people much more important than a combat medic and a rescue team lieutenant would have to decide what to do with a human who refused to let an alien die. But inside the mining station, something had already changed. 4 people from 2 different species had found common ground in the simple idea that life was worth saving. Maybe that was enough to start something bigger. 6 months later, Jiwan sat in the defendant's chair at the Terran Military Tribunal on Harmony Station. The courtroom was packed with reporters, military officials, and civilians from across human space. Everyone wanted to see the trial of the medic who had saved an alien. Prosecutor Nam Taiho stood before the judges, his voice stern and clear. Private Lee Jiwan violated every principle of military conduct. He disobeyed direct orders, aided the enemy, and compromised operational security. His actions, while perhaps well-intentioned, cannot be excused. Jiwan's defense attorney, Song Yoonji, rose to respond. Your Honors, my client did what any decent person would do. He saw someone dying and chose to help. The fact that this person happened to be from another species should not make that choice criminal. Fleet Admiral Cho Dong-min sat in the gallery, watching carefully. Next to him was an unusual sight. War Master Zeftai of the Voidborn hegemony. The 2 military leaders had been meeting secretly for weeks, trying to understand what had happened on Nexus Prime. The prosecution will call its first witness, announced Judge Han Kyung. Nam Taiho called several witnesses who testified about military protocol, the rules of war, and the danger of helping enemy forces. But their testimony felt cold and technical compared to what everyone really wanted to hear about. Then Song Yoonji called her first witness. The defense calls Kaya. The courtroom went silent as the young Voidborn walked to the witness stand. She wore simple clothes instead of military uniform, and she moved with a slight limp from her old injuries. The translator device hung around her neck. Please state your name and age for the record, Song Yoonji said. I am Kaya of the farming world Nahara. I am 16 rotations old. Her voice through the translator was soft but clear. Tell the court what happened on Nexus Prime. Kaya looked directly at Jiwan, then turned to address the judges. I was dying. My unit had been destroyed and I was bleeding in a crater. I thought I would die alone, far from my family and my light plants. She paused, gathering her thoughts. Then the healer found me. He could have left me to die. His commanders ordered him to leave me, but he carried me to safety and spent days keeping me alive. Why do you think he helped you? Song Yoonji asked. Because he saw me as a person, not as an enemy. Because he believed life was worth saving, even if that life belonged to someone he was supposed to fight. Nam Taeho objected. Your Honor, the witness's interpretation of the defendant's motives is speculation. Overruled, Judge Han said. Continue, Kaya. Before I met the healer, I believed humans were monsters. My commanders told us you ate children and destroyed worlds for pleasure, but Jiwan showed me kindness when he had no reason to. He risked his life to save mine. Kaya's voice grew stronger as she continued. The healer taught me that maybe the real monsters are the ones who start wars, not the ones who fight in them. He showed me that peace is possible. And what happened after you recovered? Song Yunji asked. I returned to my people. I told them what the human had done. Many did not believe me at first. But when they saw the medical recordings Nexara had made, when they heard her testimony, they began to question the war too. She turned to look at the crowd in the courtroom. My story spread through our communication networks. Other young Voidborn began asking why we were fighting. Families began demanding answers from the hegemony. The healer did not just save my life. He planted seeds of peace in the hearts of my people. The next witness was Nexara. The warrior looked strange in the formal courtroom setting, but her testimony was powerful. She described how seeing Jiwan's mercy had forced her to question everything she believed about the war. I have killed many humans, she said without emotion. I believed it was necessary. But when I saw this one human choose healing over hatred, it changed me. If humans could show such compassion, perhaps we could find another way to resolve our conflicts. Have you continued to have contact with Private Lee? Song Yunji asked. Yes. We have worked together to establish communication protocols between our species. We have shared medical knowledge that has saved lives on both sides. The healer's actions created a bridge where none existed before. When it was time for Jiwan to testify, he stood slowly. He looked tired but determined. Why did you disobey orders to help an enemy soldier? Song Yunji asked. Because she wasn't an enemy in that moment. She was just a scared kid who was hurt and alone. I became a medic to save lives, not to decide whose lives were worth saving. Did you consider the military implications of your actions? Of course I did. But I also considered the human implications. If we become the kind of people who can walk past a dying child because she's from the wrong species, what are we really fighting for? Nam Taiho cross-examined him aggressively, trying to show that his actions had endangered human forces and violated basic military discipline. But Jiwan's answers were simple and consistent. I saw someone who needed help and I helped them. I would do it again. The most surprising moment came when Fleet Admiral Cho took the stand as a character witness. Private Lee's actions were technically violations of military protocol, the Admiral admitted, but they also demonstrated the best qualities of humanity. His refusal to abandon a wounded enemy has opened the first real possibility for peace we've had in this war. How so? Song Yunji asked. Because of what Private Lee did, and because of Kaya's testimony to her people, both sides have agreed to preliminary peace talks. For the first time in 4 years, we're talking instead of just shooting. The trial lasted 3 days. When it ended, the judges deliberated for only 2 hours. Judge Han read the verdict. Private Lee Jiwan, this court finds you guilty of disobeying direct orders and violating military protocol. However, given the extraordinary circumstances and the positive outcomes of your actions, you are sentenced to reduction in rank and reassignment to the newly formed Interspecies Medical Corps. The courtroom erupted in cheers and protests. Jiwan felt relief wash over him. He had expected much worse, but Judge Han wasn't finished. Furthermore, this court recommends Private Lee for the newly created Galactic Humanitarian Medal, to be awarded jointly by both human and Voidborn authorities. 1 year later, Dr. Lee Jiwan ran the first joint human Voidborn medical facility on the border world of New Harmony. Kaya worked there as a diplomatic liaison, helping bridge the cultural gaps between the species. Nexara served as security chief, protecting the place where former enemies now healed together. The war wasn't over. There were still battles, still hatred on both sides. But peace talks continued, and every month brought new agreements and cooperation. In his small office, Jiwan kept a photo from Kaya's homecoming. She stood with her family among their light plants, smiling and healthy. On the back, she had written in careful English, "To the healer who taught me that mercy is stronger than fear." Sometimes, late at night when he was treating patients, Jiwan thought about that moment in the crater on Nexus Prime. The moment when he had to choose between following orders and following his conscience. He had chosen to save one life. Somehow, that choice had started to save many more. Outside his window, human and Voidborn children played together in the station's garden. They were the first generation to grow up believing that peace was possible. Maybe that was enough to change the galaxy.